Oh no! Oh help! Oh no! Oh, get out! It's so loud!
Chances are, if you were growing up in the UK, you've probably watched, or at least are aware of, Sooty, the charming little yellow bear aimed towards a younger audience that isn't currently banned in China. And though Sooty was an incredibly popular show over here in Britain, though this kid didn't seem too amused by it, I don't quite know how far he reached internationally. So for those of you that are not aware, Sooty was a British kids TV show and focused on a trio of glove puppets who would get up to all sorts of shenanigans. There was Sooty, a little yellow bear, who though couldn't speak out loud, was able to communicate by whispering in people's ears, but you would never actually hear what was being said.
Sooty, read the letter to them. On second thoughts, you got a sore throat. I'll read the letter.
You had Sue, a panda who was the more mature of the three, and the only one to be able to speak proper English.
Well, we'd better go and ask Matthew. He's bound to know. After all, he's an intellectual.
And then finally we have Sweep, a grey dog who communicated through a series of squeaks. Notably the dumbest of the trio, but that's what made him the best character.
Come on, let's talk about this. Let's not be silly, shall we? Sweep, that is silly. It's an artifact. It's not. It's a shower cubicle.
Now I grew up watching this show back in the 90s. But to my astonishment, the Sooty show had actually started airing way back in 1955 and was presented by show creator Harry Corbett, who went on to present the show right up to his retirement in 1975, to which his son Matthew Corbett took over and carried on the show until 1998. Then it got carried on into Sooty Heights and Sooty until 2004, but we don't talk about those shows. Growing up, I loved this show and would make sure to watch Sooty & Co on CITV after school, as well as possessing a whole plethora of VHS tapes. Yeah, I'm that old. One of my favourites was being the A to Z of animals, where they would showcase and talk about a whole range of creatures.
We've seen some tropical fish before, haven't we? Why are they called zebra? Well, guess, Sweep.
With Mad Lad Matthew Corbett handling all sorts of animals, such as snakes and even a tarantula. Respect. But my highlight from that special was seeing Sooty nearly getting his eye clawed out by a baby monkey.
I think it's a nice time to say goodbye from the Celebes Black Ape. Let's go back and see Sue.
Jesus Christ, Matthew! She's clawing out my fucking eye! Do something! One of the common themes on the show would to be end on a song. And man, some of those songs were catchy as fuck.
What do you do with a pile of metal? Well, what on earth do you think?
But I think what I liked about the show and why it stuck with me for so long when growing up was that it didn't feel like a typical kids show that pandered to its lower audience. Matthew Corbett would even state that the show was made with the mindset that parents would be watching too. So you'd get a few winks and nods that would generally go over the kids' heads.
She loves you, she loves you not. To find out whether your girlfriend or boyfriend loved you. Did you used to do that, mums? Yes. Never worked, did it? Well, it looks easy enough, doesn't it? Mind you, it's difficult with your hands full. If this had been my right hand, you wouldn't be laughing, would you? No, that would be a different matter then, wouldn't it? That would bring tears to your eyes.
And I think it was the character of Matthew Corbett that made the show have this wider appeal. In typical kids shows where you have adult characters, the adult characters often behave incredibly goofy to be more child-friendly, whereas Matthew would have more of a grumpy parental role. Yeah, he would still be goofy every now and then, but he also seemed to have a bit of a temper to him too, which I think helped make the show more relatable to not only the parents who would be watching along, but also the kids too. As a child, I found myself relating much more to the puppets as they would be getting into trouble from Matthew, but rewatching this now as an adult, I found myself empathising much more with the poor stress-ridden Matthew.
That's what I need, something to calm me down. A nice piece of soda. Oh. I'll marmalise that dog, I really will!
I guess you either die the SpongeBob, or live long enough to become the Squidward.
I knew I shouldn't have gotten out of bed today.
I think this is one of the reasons I never really took to the series after Matthew left. I don't want to trash on the new presenters too hard, as Richard does seem like a decent bloke who was apparently a lifelong fan of the show, but they fell into that classic trap of acting far too goofy, which makes the show feel way more childlike.
Well, yeah, I could get used to this.
which when we look at the original series, that really got close to the PG mark at times. Normally with the levels of violence going on. One particular moment I remembered is where Matthew nearly gets his fingers sawn off.
Saw here, where my finger is, just there, just so... No!
Then there were some episodes that would have some questionable moments within.
You've made him into a statue, Sooty. He can't go anywhere now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's sexual assault. There was one episode that caused a bit of controversy where the character Sue becomes pregnant.
Who's the daddy? I don't know who the daddy is.
Kind of weird because canonically these characters are meant to be 5 and 4 years old.
You see, you're all 5 years old now, right? You're only 4.
Yeah, that whole episode just had a very weird vibe to it, as there's a side segment where Matthew is trying to explain the birds and the bees to Sweep. Plus there are some really weird lines thrown in here and there.
Ooh, ouch, ouch. I think I've got the entire Manchester football team in here.
Of course, the pregnancy turns out to be fake as it was Sue playing a trick on everyone, but it's still weird to have Matthew reaching up her dress to reveal the fake babies.
You think Ryan Giggs is inside there? Never mind Ryan Giggs! What are the newspapers gonna say?
And then there were some episodes that got a little bit darker. I remember the ghost episode giving me chills, the creepy pirate dog puppet disturbing me.
Just a minute, this isn't funny! I've got something in my eye!
But the most prominent one from my memory is that episode that had the freaky as fuck ventriloquist doll in it. The episode is called Ventriloquism and starts off pretty lighthearted. Sue has learnt on how to throw her voice, so the gang end up playing a trick on Matthew to make him think that Sooty can now talk.
What would you like me to say?
Oh, this is amazing! I must tell my father. Say something else!
Inspired by this, Matthew decides that he now wants to become a ventriloquist, and so gets himself a ventriloquist dummy.
Say hello to all your little friends, Eli. Hello, guys and girls!
Like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is that thing? Did they purposely go out and get the most demonic looking dummy they could find? Or was this all that they had in the studio? It looks like some poor child was struck by a lorry and then had acid poured all over his face. But it wasn't just the design of this abomination that made me freak out as a child. It was this.
You see, it might upset him and he's leaving!
That thing is alive. This visual atrocity that just had its head forcibly removed had been alive and fully sentient this entire time.
Better go and catch him before he ends up as a piece of matchwood.
I think that would be the kindest thing for it. But the episode gets even weirder, as the gang go out to hunt Eli and manage to find him at a nearby school. I love the way this child actor is being told to walk. Yeah, that's good, Ben. Just keep walking around the playground like you've got a broom up your arse. Unfortunately, before the gang can grab him, the school bell goes, and the other kids venture onto the playground.
Oh no, there's dozens of them now!
I mean, I think it would be pretty easy to identify the satanic Pinocchio amongst all the other normal children. So what's Matthew's plan? Inform the headmaster of the situation? No. He instead just runs onto the playground and snatches a child at random. It was a different time.
You three stay here, I'll go make a snatch.
And somehow the child he snatches happens to be the wrong one.
My name's not Eli, and you won't take my head off.
And the Oscar for the best child actor goes to... I don't know how Matthew didn't manage to identify drunk Chucky amongst the other children, but even with looks aside, Eli is the only child to be wearing a cap, so it's really not difficult to see him. Unfortunately for Matthew, things only get worse as this chaos grabs the attention of the school's headmaster.
You're not going to take me down to the police station, are you?
Oh, don't do something much worse than that. I'm going to force you to come in and watch my act featuring Miss Nikki and Little Eli. So in you come, boy.
So you've just caught a grown man in a van, not only trespassing on school grounds, but actively snatching children from the playground. And your action to the situation is not to have him arrested or put onto a list, but instead to invite him into the school and have him sit alongside the rest of the children, just so he can watch your weird little performance act. It was a different time. We then get this weird segment where we're now watching the headmaster give a comedic stage show to the school. I couldn't find any information on whether this guy was the actual headmaster of the school, or just a performer playing the role of a headmaster, as he does seem pretty talented at doing the ventriloquism, which makes me think that this was the main collaboration of the episode, and the whole ventriloquism plot was built around it. Perhaps it's this guy that actually owns the Eli prop. God help him.
She drank your water.
Oh, and speaking of Eli, just remember that canonically, Eli has been established to be a living sentient being capable of moving by himself, yet he's now back to being a dummy again. Anyway, the performance is a hit with the kids, the gang all go back home, and we get one final word from Eli.
Eli, you gonna say goodbye? Good guy, Eric Goggy.
Again, blowing the boundary as to whether he's alive or not, as he moves by himself, yet needs Matthew to talk for him. According to my parents, I absolutely hated this episode as a child, and would refuse to rewatch it on VHS. And looking back at it now, yeah, I don't blame younger me at all. All I can say is thank God he only appears in this one episode, and I assume he was turned into pieces of matchwood soon after the credits rolled.
Eli, you gonna say goodbye?
Just remember, there is no life after death, no paradise from that final breath. Everything you care about will be gone for good once the light goes out.
See you again soon.